Hello, and welcome to my first Let's Solve um, an Agatha Christie novel. And this is actually what made me want to consider making videos in the first place, because I saw some of these and I thought they were really, really cool. I've read four Agatha Christie novels already, so the four I'm going to list now are not going to be ones I'm going to make a video on ever. And so I have already read Murder on the Orient Express, and then there were none, The Mysterious Affair at Styles, and The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, especially if I had made a video, it would have been a very boring video because the forward of the edition that I had spoiled the fucking ending. Bitch. Anyway, so most of the books I read, I get from the library because books are expensive and I read very fast. So it's just more cost effective to get books from the library, because otherwise it would be like $20 for every single book, and like $20, $30. And that's a lot of money when I read 13 books last month. So like that adds up. That adds up, and I can just get them from the library. So I did get um, Death on the Nile from the library, and I'm gonna be trying to solve it and filming myself trying to solve it. I have my sketchbook here, so I'm going to be taking notes, making little doodles, yada 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 yada, to try and figure out the story as we go. And I will be making periodic check-ins with the camera, and yeah, yada 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 yada. So I'm hoping that I can figure it out, and I'm hoping that my positionality will be interesting in comparison to everyone else's Let's Solves. Yeah. So, hee hee ha ha ho ho. And I hope you enjoy. Uh, See you after I've read at least one chapter. Hello again. So I know it's another day. I got sidetracked about halfway through the first chapter, which is 41 pages. But I did finish it. So I ended up switching between different things. I ended up not using my sketchbook because I wanted to draw in it. I have this little one that is designed for paint markers that I was originally using, because I was like, oh, I'm have it because it's for the paint markers and because the paper is black. I can't really use it for my regular art because I can't sketch on it. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna use this. But I filled up 4 pages by like page 20 of the novel. I was like, this isn't working. So I did switch to this notebook. I'm using some Crayola markers and some colored pencils and these paint markers to not color code, but like differentiate so that it sort of breaks up my notes, to sort of help me like separate my ideas, my thoughts. So far, nobody's even died yet, but we're sort of establishing characters, and there are a lot of characters. It's like we have, like, my first page in this is just a list of characters, like, and not even any notes about them, just their names. So, but we have like a bunch of different characters. We have some of the ones that really stood out to me, where we have Lynette Ridgway, who is initially mentioned as being this very sweet girl, like very nice, very kind, but she also like gentrifies. Like she straight up gentrifies. It's like a point in the thing. Like it says that she's gentrifying. I wrote it down right here. Lynette gentrifies. She's tearing down people's houses because they're ugly and because they would overlook her new swimming pool. Ugh. Oh my god. And like, I get it, the positionality of the original book, like, this isn't necessarily meant to be like a commentary in that particular sense, but it is something that really stood out to me, and I was like, are we sure Lynette is really that sweet? And then she later goes on to marry her best friend's fiance, which is like, she just straight up like cucks Jackie, which is, oh my god. So I'm not sure that we're supposed to be rooting for her. Like, maybe we are, but like, you know what I mean? It's not the best look. It's not the best look. So, but she had like this other suitor before that, Windlesham, and he like didn't respect her as a person. Like, he just wanted her to be his trophy wife. So like, I get why she said no to that, but like, did you have to marry Jackie's fiance? Oh my god. Jackie is very one of those like proud poors. She's very proud, and she's too proud to take handouts, which is dumb. Have you ever been poor? Have you ever been poor? You take free things. You ever like that's why like you hear about like, you know how to get college students to come to a thing? You have free food. Everyone will show up because we want free food. I want free food. I'm sure you also want free food. Free food is good. Free food is great. I say that as someone who has been, has had, 4 years of undergrad, and then I had my master's degree, which was a 3-semester course. So yeah, I've had 5.5 years as a college student. We will show up for free food because we do not have that much disposable cash, and we will show up because we like food. Everyone likes food. Everyone likes food. And everyone likes free things. I do not understand this like concept of the proud poor who won't take handouts. But maybe that's a me thing. Maybe that's an American thing. Maybe the proud poor is more common in Britain. So I'll try to suspend my disbelief. But, like, no, I will take free. If you want to give me free food, I will take it. Anyway. So, and then there's other characters. There's Joanna, who is this like mean girl gossip who literally does not pay for things. According to Tim Allerton, she like literally goes and she buys things and then she just never comes back to the store. So like, they'll extend her line of credit and she's like, oh, I don't have cash on me, I'll pay you back. And then she doesn't fucking pay them back because she just takes the things and then runs. Just like, oh my god. And then she also literally says that if her friends fell on hard times, she would dump them because they would constantly be asking her for money. Okay, bitch. I'm just saying. Anyway, um, Tim Allerton's mom is here. We don't know her name, but she's like weird about her son. Like, she's acting like weird jealous. You know, like those boy moms who you're like, are you sure that you're like actually like coming at this from a maternal stance? Are you sure that you're not like a little bit incestuous in your feelings? It feels like that. Like, I would not be surprised if she ended up like trying to romantically get with her son before the end of the book. I would be a little surprised because like, this is a Agatha Christie mystery novel, and that doesn't really feel like her style to bring up those sorts of serious topics. But like the way Mrs. Allerton is written, I would not be surprised for her character. I'd be surprised for the book genre, but I would not be surprised for her character. Miss and like that's literally in the text. In the text, this is still open to the last page of chapter 1. Like Mrs. Allerton says that she dislikes Jackie because her son does not show her Jackie's letters. He shows her all of the other letters he gets, but not Jackie's. So that's weird. It feels super weird. Then we have, let me see, what else happened anyhow? Tim's also kind of a dick and rude and sexist, and I don't like him. Everyone sucks, except Jackie, who's like a weird conceptually, but in practice she's done nothing wrong. Also, Poirot, but Poirot is not someone I consider like, I mean, he's the detective. We don't need to worry about him being the killer. So, I don't know who's dead yet, and that is gonna affect like sort of who I think is the killer, but there is like definitely 100% different like people's motivations that I can see lining up depending on who dies. So let's see. Also, I wrote down when Poirot appears. He doesn't appear until page 24. So that's exciting. Alright, and then we have Mr. Andrew Pennington, who is an honorary uncle to Lynette, and he wants to go to Egypt to talk to her about something, but he doesn't want her to know that he's talking to her about this thing. Now, I'm not sure what they're talking about her like right away. I'm guessing it's something to do with the fact that Lynette is very rich, but I don't know exactly what is going on, you know? And there's other characters here too. Whatever it is that Andrew Pennington is going after her for, there's another, like, I guess, like, legal group, like Carmichael and Grant and Carmichael, who also wants to, like, intercept this and get in their way about it. And they're sending Jim Fanthorpe to intercept Pennington. I don't know what that's about either. And then we have something with the Otterborns. I don't know what's going on with that. There are other characters that are probably going to come into more play later, but right now they're just kind of here. So my thoughts right now are everyone sucks except Jackie, and I don't know if Jackie's going on the Egypt trip because we aren't on the Egypt trip yet, but I could see some characters having reasons to kill Lynette. I could see some characters having reasons to kill Simon Doyle, who's Jackie's fiance, who ended up married to Lynette. Why did you do that? Why did you do that? Oh my god. Okay. Jackie got cucked. And like, are you kidding me? What? Oh my god. Okay. So there's like a lot going on. I didn't really get into that many details, and I've been recording for over 11 minutes somehow. And that's just chapter 1. So, yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna be back after chapter 2. I don't know if I'm gonna have much more to say. Um, because or like checking in after every single chapter might be a little bit much. Most of the videos I've seen that with this format only really check in every like 4 or 5 chapters, not after every single chapter. But you know, I can take a lot of notes. I can analyze. So I don't know. I might do it after every chapter. We'll see. We'll see. If I don't have information that I want to sort of theorize on, then probably not. I might not come back to it until after somebody dies. So my thought right now is I'll either come back after the end of chapter 2 or I'll come back at the end of whatever chapter somebody dies. And then once somebody's dead, I'll probably check in pretty regularly, so at the end of each chapter until we get to the denouement. And at which point, once we get to the denouement, I'm just going to read to the end of the book and then check in and sort of tell y'all what happened, giving you my final review of the book. But chapter 1 was 41 pages long on my iPad. So I wanted to just sort of, and there was a lot of information about a lot of characters, so I wanted to go ahead and sort of talk through the characters that jumped out at me. And yeah, so I will see you after somebody's dead. Bye bye bye. I will see you in a moment. Okay, so originally I said I'm gonna wait until somebody's dead to come back and talk some more, but I read chapter 2 and I was like, I already have some more thoughts. Maybe not about who's gonna die, but I have some thoughts about like the direction this is gonna go. So I took some notes. I tried to take at least one note per page. So you can see they're all kind of mixed up and in different colors because the idea is less that it be like color coded so that like I can sort things by color, but more like I like using the different colors to sort of break it up so I can see what my different thoughts were. Anyway, I tried to take one note for each page, and only like 2 of them are like not necessarily super relevant. Because I use Libby on usually on my iPad. I do read on my phone sometimes, but not often because it's so small that the pages have very little on them. So, and I use Open Dyslexic font because I'm not diagnosed with dyslexia, but my mother thought I might have a minor form of it. I don't know, but I do know that I can read most of the time normally, but I do actually find Open Dyslexic font to be a little bit helpful. So maybe. I don't know. Like I said, at this point if I do have anything, it's very minor, and at this point in my life, I don't know that it's useful to get a diagnosis. So, anyway. So using Open Dyslexic font at the smallest size on Libby, the second chapter is 12 pages long, and in 12 pages, oh my god, okay, so it's a little more focused because it's 12 pages rather than 41. So what I got out of it was a little more concise. So we have the Allertons, we have Rosalie Otterborn, who was introduced at the very end of the first chapter and didn't really make super of an impression on me. I'm happy to sort of see her become more of a character. Poirot is here, and we see Lynette and Simon and Jackie. So we see Mrs. Allerton recognizes Poirot, which is good. It's very good. And I mean, it's interesting. It's like Poirot is famous in universe, so that's cool. I would say I don't think Poirot is super famous outside of his world, his own world. He's not unknown, but he's not a cultural icon in the way that you would expect from the main detective from the best-selling author behind the Bible, which is strange. I don't really know how that happens, but it is what it is. Anyway, so Poirot is like walking with Rosalie, and Tim comes up to them, and Rosalie says that Tim looks conceited because, let's be honest, he is conceited. He's full of himself. And Tim says to his mother that he thinks Rosalie looks bad-tempered and pouty, and apparently the narration agrees with him, but I'm gonna be honest, I take Tim's accusations with a grain of salt because Tim is not exactly a paragon of virtue. He's kind of a dick. I'm gonna be so honest. I do not buy his whole deal. Anyway, so then Tim and Rosalie and Poirot see a group of tourists arrive, including Lynette and Simon. And this is really interesting, and this is the reason that I really wanted to go ahead and talk through things again. So, Poirot noticed the sound of Simon's voice and said that it looked familiar. It sounded familiar, and then said that looking at Lynette's face, that she's got dark circles under her eyes, and he feels like there's something wrong. That even though they have the appearance of this happy honeymooning couple, something is not right. Which is very interesting, and it sort of has changed my perspective on the whole thing. Also, Jackie shows up at the end. And one thing I noticed with the narration, Simon says that he didn't expect to see Jackie there, and then the narration says, and I quote, "The words were unconvincing in the extreme." That's what it says. It says it right here. See? The words were unconvincing in the extreme. What does that mean? Does that mean he invited Jackie? And if he invited Jackie, why? Why would he invite Jackie? Maybe it's a quirk of the, older writing style, but like, what? What do you mean? His words were. Okay, so Jackie's here. Jackie said hi to Lynette and Simon, and Lynette's like, Simon, what are we gonna do? And then the chapter ends. So we don't know what they're gonna do. But something is wrong, and I think maybe Jackie getting cucked was not entirely on Lynette. Maybe Simon isn't really that good of a partner. I think maybe he was seduced more by Lynette's money than Lynette. I think Lynette definitely likes Simon. I'm not sure it's reciprocated. And that's gonna wear Lynette down, but she might at this stage still be trying to delude herself. So I will not be surprised if it comes out that Simon is only in their relationship for the money. And that's really what I wanted to say is oh, I feel like maybe Simon didn't really marry for love. Also, Jackie still got fucking shafted, and that was rude as shit. But I'm feeling maybe Simon didn't marry for love, and I wanted to talk through that before I went on to the next chapter. So, yeah. Okay. See you after chapter 3 or when somebody dies. Well, I already made one for a check-in for after the first 2 chapters. Might as well just keep it going. We're going to check in after every chapter until after the denouement. After the denouement, I'm not sure that there's probably going to be much left. But, okay. So, chapter 3, this is going to be really short because it was only 7 chapters to read. And you may have noticed that I'm still wearing the same shirt. So, yeah, it's the same day. And I'm just, reading, recording, as you do. So, chapter 3 was very short. It was only 7 pages long for me. But I did want to go ahead and check in with a couple of observations. So, we learn a little bit more about Mrs. Otterborn. She's apparently a feminist smut writer. Okay, that's cool. I'm gonna be super honest. I'm kind of writing her off whatever happens. She's definitely like going to be around, but I don't think she's gonna be the killer. I think she's gonna be hysterical probably when somebody dies. And maybe she ends up being somebody that dies. I don't know. But there's no way this woman is killing nobody. This woman ain't killing nobody. She's a feminist smut writer. No. Also, her daughter Rosalie is extremely embarrassed by her mother and worries a lot about her health. That's interesting. I don't know what that's leading up to yet, but it's something. And then Jackie is an icon. She just comes out, sits down, stares down Lynette repeatedly. Lynette moves, and she moves too. She continues to stare her down. Iconic behavior. Oh my god. Like, if I didn't know this was leading up to a murder, I would just read an entire book about Jackie being a fucking icon from different people's points of view. Because she's so iconic right now. Which makes me a little worried that she's gonna be the one that ends up dead. So, we will have to see. I'm a little worried about Jackie. I'm not worried about Mrs. Otterborn, the feminist writer. Alright. See you after chapter 4. Guess who's back? It's still later the same day. You can see my Epcot shirt. Yippee. Just finished chapter 4, which was 13 pages. And I do think I have a little bit of a clearer perspective on the Lynette, Simon, Jackie thing now. So I am going to sort of walk back the thought of where Lynette's distress was coming from, because my first thought was, oh, Trouble in Paradise. Simon married for money. That's why he left Jackie. But this chapter deals with Lynette talking to Poirot, trying to get him to get Jackie to back off, stop following them, and, all that. And basically, he's like, there's no legal recourse here, and also, I saw them in a restaurant, which I had forgotten, because I read the first 20-something pages of the first chapter, and then put the book down for 2 days. So, oops. And then today I've read like 4 chapters, well, 3.5, but many. And I will continue to read. So that's exciting. But yeah, so Poirot's like, I saw Jackie and Simon in a restaurant, and like she was so in love. So like I know you're like thinking, oh, this is undignified and ridiculous, but like she really loved him, and you're being kind of terrible to her. Uh, but Lynette has all of this like self righteousness. Like she's like, oh, but Simon didn't really love her. He loved me, and you know, all this, and it's like, oh my god, oh my god, are you listening to yourself? And like Poirot's like, but you're acting like you still have like some level of guilt, and so that's really interesting. But what's really stands out to me is that at the end of the chapter, Lynette says that Jackie has threatened to kill them. Earlier, they're like, oh, there's no legal recourse for Jackie following you around. She threatened to kill them. There's usually legal recourse for that. Like, does Britain not have that? I'm sure if they didn't at the time, they do now, considering that they're considering. But, you know. So, anyway, yeah, like, Jackie is threatened to kill them. And yeah, and like, I feel like that's a little bit too obvious of a red herring, but I am gonna hint at the ending of The Mysterious Affair at Styles. So if you have already, if you haven't already read that one and you don't want a hint, it shouldn't take more than like 30 seconds. Okay. I feel like when I read The Mysterious Affair at Styles, I had completely written off the killer because I thought that he was too obvious of a red herring. And so I'm a little worried that that's going to happen again with Jackie here. But I don't know. She just feels like a really obvious red herring. Okay. Spoilers over for The Mysterious Affair at Styles. I don't even know that really counts as spoilers, but it's a hint. And trust me, I know that can be devastating. So, anyway. But, like, I do think it's important to, like, mention that that's something that informs my thought process here for this one. Because the way you interpret a book, and especially the way you interpret a book like this, and you're really trying to dig into it and put it together before the book itself reveals it, is informed by what you've already read. In this case, very literally, but in general, this is true. So, yeah. So, I feel like this is a lot of really interesting setup, but it might be a big red herring, especially since I still don't know who's dead. We've read chapter 4, and nobody's dead yet. This book called Death on the Nile has had 4 chapters, and nobody has died yet. And we haven't gotten on the Nile either. No death, no Nile, 4 chapters. Okay. Well, so that's my update here. And I will see you when I've read chapter 5. Alright. So I just finished chapter 5. Here you can see. This chapter is also fairly short. It's 8 pages, and I do think it's interesting. So this is, considering how old this book is, it's interesting that I feel like there's an element of pop psych in this work. Like, Poro has this very outdated idea of psychology, and he uses it very much integrally to his detective work, which I think is very interesting. Um, but it's not totally bogus. This chapter involves him approaching Jackie, um, and saying, hey, this thing you're doing, maybe don't do it for your health, not because like because it's driving people crazy, but for your health. Like, it's gonna drive you crazy. And then Jackie takes out a gun and is like, I went to my grandpa's place in South Carolina and I know how to shoot a gun. And I'm gonna shoot one of them eventually after driving them crazy. And girl, girl, you crazy? You nuts. Anyway, so, but honestly, this whole thing makes me think of like, actually the changed Taylor Swift lyric from, forgot the name of it, the song. But the lyric, the one she changed, the new one, is he was a moth to the flame, she was holding the matches. Whoa, better than revenge. Of course, after I sing it, then I remember it. Okay, cool. But no, it very much makes me think of that because, like, the way that Jackie talks about Simon leaving her for Lynette is that she compares herself to the moon and then Lynette to the sun. And when the moon and the sun are out at the same time, you don't really notice that the moon's out. Like, like obviously it happens all the time. The moon's up and the sun's out because the moon does not actually have a 24-hour orbit, but you only really notice it when the sun's out, when the sun's gone. So that was very much a thing. I do think Jackie is still kind of iconic for tracking them, following them. That's iconic. But the like threatening to shoot them dead, less iconic. But one thing I really want to mention, because if I mention it, I'm going to remember it better. At the end of the chapter, Jackie says that she saw someone listening in on her and Poro's conversation. And she uses masculine pronouns, and this book is old, so I'm going to assume that it was probably a dude. So, some dude was listening in and maybe knows that Jackie has a gun. Still feel like Jackie is like way too much of a red herring to be the actual culprit of whoever ends up dead. And actually, I'm a little worried she's gonna be the one that ends up dead, which is sad because she is iconic. I love her. But, being an icon is not body armor. You're not foolproof because you're iconic, unfortunately. But yeah, so someone was listening in, and I feel like that's gonna be really important later. So put stars in my notebook for it. Yes, this is exciting. Things are getting very exciting. Be excited. Are you excited? Because I'm excited. All right, I'll see you after chapter 6. Welcome back for the 6th time. I just finished chapter 6. Chapter 6. Alright, so I have a new theory and I'm going to share it now. I think that Simon and Jackie are conspiring to steal Lynette's money. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm like totally over for reading into things. But Simon and Jackie use the same metaphor, the same simile, to describe Lynette coming into the relationship. They both say that Jackie is like the moon and then Lynette is like the sun. Weird as hell. Like, that's like a little bit funky to just be a coincidence. You know? Like, it really is. So, I'm not sure that it actually is, you know? And like that, that, that's, yeah. So that made me think maybe it's not, and maybe they're trying to steal Lynette's money. I don't know that that's the case, but that is a possibility I'm throwing out there. And additionally, Simon says that Egypt was Lynette's idea. Was it? Was it? Because I know he and Jackie were planning to go to Egypt for their honeymoon. Yeah, and they're also planning to like get on the boat with fake identities, but let's be honest, Jackie's gonna follow them somehow. We know. Because we're the readers. And we know how stories work. We know that Jackie is gonna get on that boat. You know it. I know it. We both know it. So, yeah. Simon also says that the reason that he got with Lynette rather than Jackie, from his perspective, is that he thought that Jackie was too possessive and that a man, quote, doesn't want to be owned by a woman. They want to own the woman, which is okay. You know, sometimes you are violently reminded that these books are old. Like, older than my parents. These books are old. Yeah. Also, that made me think of affection addiction. Like by Vocalo Cat. Oh, am I crazy for wanting us to be mutually obsessed? Look me in the eye, hold me close just for tonight. The song, but I do think it's interesting that 2 chapters in a row made me think of a song. Probably just a coincidence because like these songs are written way after the fact, but yeah, interesting. And that's all I have for chapter 6, so I will see you after chapter 7. And yeah, what's gonna happen next? Who the fuck knows? Because I haven't read the book yet. I still don't know who's gonna die. I have some thoughts about like the interpersonal drama, but I still don't know who's gonna die. I just think is very interesting, especially considering that that is what I managed to predict correctly when I read The Mysterious Affair at Styles. I managed to correctly predict all of the interpersonal drama and then completely missed the killer. Good job. So we shall see if that remains the case. Okay, so I just finished chapter 7, and this is probably going to be the last chapter I read tonight, because it's getting pretty late, and my devices are getting low battery, but okay. So, like I said, read chapter 7. Here are my notes. And so Jackie did not see the luggage leave. Like, the narration makes a point of that, and then she still shows up on the boat. Some other stuff happens as well. But mostly I'm thinking about Jackie ending up on the boat, even though she didn't see the luggage leave. And Lynette says she feels very confused, lost, like this is all, she feels very trapped. One thing I noticed is that at the end of it, Poirot says, why didn't you just hire like a private, and then he mentions the, I guess, the name of the conveyance, but I don't recognize it. I'm gonna assume it's a kind of boat. So why don't you pay for a private boat? And she says Simon wouldn't hear of it because it was too expensive. So that's interesting. And she does say also that Simon wanted to go to a little place in Spain. Um, but no, I think it's very interesting that he doesn't want to pay for privacy, especially considering what I was thinking last chapter about him and Jackie being in on it together. Like, obviously, like, he's playing up this, like, innocent schoolboy act when Jackie's not around, and then he's, like, super angry when Jackie's there. Oh. But, like, it's not how to act angry. You can just be angry. Like, I can just be pissed off whenever the fuck I want to be angry. I can be pissed off, you know? I can be really angry when I want to be angry. I just have to think about things that make me angry. Like Sarah J. Maas. Oh yeah, I said it. Oh my god. Worst books I've ever read in my life. Anyway. I do feel a little bit like Poirot is a little bit of a hypocrite because he's talking to Mrs. Allerton about, like, oh, you cannot be the arbiter of fate and kill people and have it righteous. And then, like, but like, I read Murder on the Orient Express, and I'm pretty sure that it's an earlier book that she wrote. And I'm pretty sure Poirot was like, sure, fine, whatever. Y'all get away with that. You know? Crazy. Anyway, so yeah, I still think that Simon and Jackie are trying to do something together to get Lynette's money. I could be wrong, but that's still the vibe I'm getting. I'm not really sure what's going on with everyone else, but I'm pretty sure we're getting close to somebody dying. It might be Lynette. My money's on Lynette. Like, but it could be somebody else. But it could be Lynette. I feel like it might be Lynette. It's either going to be Lynette or Jackie, I feel like. Like, because if I'm correct, I feel like it's Lynette who's going to die. But if I'm wrong, I feel like it's Jackie who's going to die. Because, yeah. And I know there's all these other people here that could be killed. Or be not be the killer. But I don't buy it. No, they're not that interesting. They're really not. Which I guess could be a tactic to, you know, make them feel like less of a suspect. But I guess we'll have to see. So, yeah, I'll see you after I read chapter 8, which probably, like I said, probably won't be tonight. But, so when you see me next, I'll probably be wearing a different shirt. Or maybe a dress. Anyway, see you after that. Good morning. It's the next morning for me, and I have just finished chapter 8 of Death on the Nile. So not a whole lot is going on here, but I feel like what is here is going to be important later. So in this chapter, it's just the Allertons talking with Poirot, being like, oh, we can identify everyone else on the boat. So now we have like our final list of people. Interestingly, I don't think we saw either. It's not who I was expecting or something like that, because I don't think we saw the person from the rival firm. Or maybe that's Mr. Ferguson. I don't think Ferguson was his name when we first saw it. So maybe he's under an assumed name. I don't know. We'll have to see. Anyway, so yeah, they called attention to this line that Simon said, so I wanted to mark it down here very strongly. And then also notably, when they were all socializing, Jackie said alone. She wasn't the only one who said alone, but Jackie is kind of like, I really feel like it's going to be Jackie or Simon or Lynette who dies. I'm not sure about the killer, but I feel like it's going to be one of them that dies. So that's exciting. Anyway, yeah, so I guess we will see what happens. So this is just a brief check-in. I'll see you later. When is somebody going to die? Like, oh my god. Okay, I've read chapter 9. Here are my notes, as you can see. But like, okay, so with the settings... Stop. Sorry, the air conditioning turned on, and now everything is blowing around. Anyway, stop. Anyway, so with the settings that I have on Libby, the book is 420 pages long, and I'm on page 140. I've read over a fourth of the book. Like, you can see if you pull up the thing at the bottom, it says I've read 34% of the book. That's over a third of the book, actually. Nobody's fucking dead yet. I'm getting a little impatient. Somebody died. Oh my god. Anyway. So, aside from nobody being dead, which is honestly absolutely wild. Somebody needs to just up and die at this point. Like, oh my god. Aside from that, some things are happening. We do have some information about some of the like other drama that I think is really interesting. So we have Miss Van Skyler. I'm pronouncing it Skylar because it makes me think of the Skylar sisters. It's spelled the same way. If it's supposed to be pronounced like Schuler or something, that sounds very German, but I guess it's possible. But to me, I'm going to pronounce it Skylar. So Miss Van Skyler is being horribly rude. And she's got, Miss Bowers is her live-in nurse to give her her medicine on time. And Cornelia is super accepting of the way she's being treated, but it's like nasty. So, and then we have Fanthorpe, who I was like, did we leave him behind? No, he's here, apparently. I don't know where he came from. I must have missed him last chapter, but whatever. Anyway, he like admires that Lynette reads contracts, and Lynette is reading all the contracts, and Pennington is insisting that Lynette doesn't actually need to read all of the contracts she's signing, which is suspect as hell. What is he trying to hide? What is he trying to get her to sign that he doesn't think she's gonna sign if she reads it? Like, that no. Okay, that seems super weird, right? That's not just me. Yikes. And also, I learned a new word. Ferguson says he wants to scrag Miss Van Skylar, which means to strangle. Love that. And fair. So, you know, vocabulary lessons. Yippee. Alright, and I feel like Mr. Ferguson's gonna be considered as a fairly prominent candidate for the murderer because I feel like whoever ends up dying is gonna be one of the like main trio. It's gonna be Lynette or Simon or Jackie. And if it's Lynette especially, then like Mr. Ferguson with his communist sympathies. Well, they're described as anti-capitalist because I guess at the time, communism was a word. And since then it's become more of a word. And honestly, the thing about a lot of communist systems in real life is that they're not actually communist, they're fascist with a coat of red paint. It's a rhetorical device, not a system of government. We've never actually had a real communist system because they keep getting taken over by fascist dictators. It just happens. So, yeah, he's kind of vibing. And there's a strange woman dressed in black who's talking to a ship engineer. So that's interesting. We don't know what's up with that. And Rosalie is super unhappy. And Tim is also, like, super jaded. I feel like Rosalie and Tim are going to get along. Maybe they'll get together by the end of the book. Like, I can see it happening. So, yeah, that's sort of what happened in Chapter 9. My thoughts, it's definitely going to be one of the main trio that ends up dying. I'm leaning towards Lynette. I really hope somebody dies soon, though. But I'm leaning towards Lynette being the victim. And I feel like that there's going to be a lot of potential suspects with a lot of different motives. I'm still not fully convinced that Simon and Jackie aren't, like, in it together to steal Lynette's money. Like, that doesn't seem to be the direction that they're, like, trying to build more clues towards. But there were enough weird things going on earlier that I wouldn't be surprised if these are misdirects, and that's actually what they're aiming. What Dame Agatha was aiming for. So that's one possibility. Is it's going to be Simon and Jackie who kill Lynette, and then we have Mr. Ferguson and his anti-capitalist, like communist sympathies, and all that. And I think that he's going to be a candidate for the killer. And then we have the like legal drama going on with Arthur? Was it Arthur? Pennington. I think his first name was Arthur. But with Pennington and Fanthorpe. So those are also candidates for the murderer, I think. That's what I'm leaning towards. If somebody else winds up being the one to die, then I'll have to like come up with a new thought process. But with what's being set up so far, I think Lynette's going to be the one who dies, and then it's going to be either Simon and Jackie, who were in on it together, Pennington, Fanthorpe, or Ferguson. I think everyone else is just kind of doing their own thing. And maybe Rosalie and Tim will get together. They deserve each other. They're both jaded as hell and prissy. So, yeah. Okay, see, after chapter 10, I really hope somebody dies. Why have I read a third of this murder mystery novel and nobody's dead yet? Oh my god. Somebody fucking die. Alright, so we're back after chapter 10, and still nobody's dead, but we did have an attempted murder, I think. So, progress. We're moving in the right direction. See my notes here. So, a big rock almost crushed Lynette and Simon, but mostly Lynette. So that's our attempted murder. There was a path up above, and they're like, oh, well, maybe somebody pushed it and they tried to kill her on purpose. And initially Simon thinks it's Jackie, but Jackie is not off the boat yet. So they're like, oh, it must have been an accident. I don't think it was an accident. I think that was an attempted murder. Someone's trying to kill Lynette. And it wasn't Jackie. Also visible, so we have Poirot and Tim warn them and help them realize that it's happening so they can get out from under it. And then also visible, we have Miss Van Skyler, Mrs. Allerton, Miss Bowers, Mrs. Otterborn. So that leaves a lot of characters still up in the air. Both of the legal team people are not there. So we have blah, 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 blah. Names are hard. Okay. Fanthorpe and Pennington both are not there. So those are both of the legal people, the banker man and the lawyer. And we still don't know what the lawyer wants with Lynette. So this could be him. And the banker does not want Lynette to read her contracts before she signs them. So maybe he wants to just off her. And then we also have Ferguson, the communist. So it would be reasonable to assume that he would go after a rich girl, So we have multiple people to still think about, So we have all of these people still that it's totally reasonable to think that they are, not that they're after her. Words are hard. but it's that's very interesting. Also earlier in the chapter, they mentioned Dr. Besner has taken a shine to Cornelia, who is Miss Van Skyler's cousin, who she's mean to. I'm not sure that's relevant, but it might be, especially since neither of them are visible later. So, yeah. So that's what I'm thinking right now, is that it's probably one of the legal people, probably not the communist. I feel like the communist is a little too obvious and a little bit too much of a statement. So, but I think that the legal people, it makes sense. For the trustee, for the lawyer, it could be either one of them. Obviously, it could be that Jackie's colluding with somebody, but I'm thinking right now, as much as I loved the idea of Simon and Jackie being in on it together, I don't think that this attempted murder was them, because Simon is actively the one who saved Lynette. So I don't think that's it. As much as I liked that idea, I'm not sure that that's really the way it's going. It felt a little bit like that was the way it was going at the beginning, but it doesn't make sense for him to save her from the attempted murder if that's the way it's going, unless there are multiple people trying to kill Lynette right now, and it's somebody else's plan, and he has another plan to kill Lynette later. That seems like a lot, though. That seems very convoluted. I'm leaning towards Pennington or Fanthorpe as the perpetrator for this event. But also, could somebody actually die, please? It's been 10 chapters out of 31. Nobody's even dead yet. This is boring. And it's not boring. But it's please die. Please die. Please die. Please die. Please die. Yeah. Anyway, I'll see you after chapter 11. I'm really hoping somebody dies. Please. Like, okay, just die already. Yeah. So we're back again after chapter 11, and guess what? Nobody's dead. We are almost 2/5 of the way through this book, and nobody is dead yet. Why? Just kill her. Just kill her. Just kill her. I'm like, at this point, I'm like completely convinced that Lynette is the one who's gonna die. Um, but yeah. And we have a new character. Here's my notes. We have a new character, Colonel Race, who is after one of the passengers who's a paid agitator and has killed people. I'm thinking it's probably our communist friend, Ferguson. Probably. And so that would imply that it's more likely Ferguson who's going after Lynette. That's what I'm leaning towards right now. But Poirot still seems to think that he's like hung up on everything with like Jackie. But like Jackie has done nothing. Jackie's like, no, I must kill. But she like, because they're not affected by me anymore. But I feel like if Jackie kills, especially with the way she's like phrasing it in the book, I think if Jackie kills, she's going to kill Simon, not Lynette. And Simon doesn't have nearly as many death flags. I feel like Lynette's going to die. And Jackie's going to be who Simon accuses first. But it's not going to be Jackie. Like, that's what I'm feeling right now. Like, that's where I'm at for the development of things. I feel pretty confident in this, but, you know, new information gets introduced all the time, so it's easy to come up with new theories all the time. But no, my thought right now is that it seems to be telegraphing that Ferguson is going to kill Lynette as a political statement, and then Simon is going to accuse Jackie. That's my thought right now. Right? Okay. So I'll see you after chapter 12. And I hope Lynette dies already. Oh my god. There's a distinct lack of murder in this murder mystery book so far. Yeah. If I didn't know that this was a murder mystery, I would be less irritated by the fact that we still don't have anyone dead after chapter 12. Oh my god. Okay. So, here's my notes. You can probably tell some important things happened this chapter. So, Jackie got drunk and shot Simon in the leg. And Cornelia was the only other person in the room, but they called back Jim Fanthorpe, like, in time for him to see her drop the little pistol and where it went. So they get Jackie to her room, and she immediately like becomes distraught, like suicidal. Ugh. And yeah, I mean, understandably, she reached her breaking point, she snapped, and now it's all coming crashing down. So she's got to like process that, which is gonna be difficult, you know? Like, in this situation, that's very difficult. So Jackie Cornelia and Fanthorpe get Miss Bowers, the nurse, to watch her, and then they fetch Dr. Bessner to to treat the gunshot wound in Simon's leg. So Simon's alive, but he is injured, and obviously he's injured. And like, this is good mostly this is good, but the pistol is missing. So Jackie drops the pistol and it goes under a settee, which I think is like an ottoman. It's a piece of furniture. And yeah, and so Fanthorpe can't find it. He goes back in there and it's just gone, which I think means that somebody took it and then used it to shoot somebody. Hopefully soon, because we are almost halfway through this book and nobody is dead. Nobody's dead. We are halfway through this fucking book. Anyway, going out of my mind. So Simon also doesn't want Lynette to know that he got shot, which I think is an interesting choice. And yeah, so that's really interesting. I don't know. And also, Ferguson mentions that he wants Lynette shot as a statement, which I almost forgot because this chapter had a lot of stuff happening. But I wrote it down up here. Cornelia and Ferguson start the story talking together, and Ferguson says that Lynette should be shot as an example for, like, as an opening volley in a class war. So, am I worried about Lynette? 100%. 100%. Also, Jackie is now doped up on morphine that Miss Bowers gave her. So she's just gonna be high and possibly asleep all night. Good. But I don't think Lynette's gonna make it through the night. I think whoever took that pistol, and I think it's gonna be Ferguson. I think Ferguson took the pistol and he's gonna shoot Lynette. Maybe that's a little obvious. I don't know. But yeah, I don't see Lynette surviving. I guess we'll see if I'm right soon because, oh my god, somebody needs to die. This murder mystery has no murder in it. It just has a lot of drama. What the hell? Right. So we're back again after chapter 13. I guess what? Lynette's dead finally. Thank God. So we open. But this chapter is honestly like, I took a lot of notes because they did like lay out the exact timetable. So we got that. We have some details about the scene of the crime. There's a big ol' J on the wall. But we go into this chapter already knowing that Jackie is innocent, and then the entire chapter is Poirot figuring out that Jackie's innocent. That's the whole chapter. Like, all 22 pages of it. That's a lot of pages for something that a discerning reader already knows. Obviously, Jackie didn't kill her. Duh, she was on morphine. We knew that. And Mrs. Bowers was with her. We knew that. And she didn't go anywhere before shooting Simon. Right here. I still think it's Ferguson. I think it's Ferguson, and then Fanthorpe says he heard a splash right as he was going to sleep around 1 o'clock. I think that was the gun being thrown overboard. So, yeah, I'm going to say at this point, about halfway through the book, that Lynette was shot by Ferguson, and he threw the gun overboard at 1 o'clock. Since we know that time of death is between midnight and 2 a.m. And so that would mean, and see here, it's at 12:25 that the pistol's gone, and they only went out the starboard side when they were getting the doctor. So it's possible that someone on the port side saw it. Yeah, they saw the altercation, and they went to, and they saw it, and they stole the pistol. So that's my thought. It was Ferguson with the pistol that he stole from Jackie after she shot Simon. And if I'm right, slay, but also like, girl, I thought you said this was like your most complex mystery yet. Why do I have it figured out? To be fair, I figured out a lot of the drama in Mysterious Affair at Styles. I knew the killer in Murder of Roger Ackroyd from like the word go. Murder on the Orient Express, when I read it, I already knew the ending because I'd seen the movie adaptation, the one with Daisy Ridley, a few years ago, because my grandma's a huge fan of Agatha Christie's novels. Even though I've never read them, I know my grandma loves mystery novels. So I knew that one going into it, so I wasn't really trying to figure it out. And then there were none actually that stumped me. I was like, I don't know what the fuck is going on with this. But this one, there was a little author's note at the beginning of the book. It was like, I went to Egypt on holiday, and it really inspired me, and I wrote this book. And it's my most complex work yet. Dame Agatha, I swear I have it half figured out. I'm not even halfway through the book. Chapter 13 out of 31. And I'm pretty sure that I have it figured out that Ferguson was on the port side. And then after Jackie shot Simon, he took the pistol that Lynette kicked under the settee, which I did look up. I looked it up. It's a sofa. British people are so posh. Anyway, so I think Ferguson went in, got the pistol, and then he went and killed Lynette because she's too rich, and he hates that. He's like, nuh-uh, you're too rich. Class war. Which, eat the rich, I guess, but I don't know. Maybe not the time and place. Anyway, so yeah. That's my thoughts. If I'm right, go me. But also, this book is predictable. I feel like that's clearly the thing with these sorts of videos is like, and that I'm making right now, is like that if you get it correct, then you're like, okay, just hurry up and reveal it already if you have like an idea. And if that's not where it ends up going, you end up pleasantly surprised. But if you are correct, then it's like there was a whole lot of buildup for nothing, and you were treating me like stupid the entire time. But like if you don't figure it out, then it really keeps you in actually more than if you do figure it out. Because like when I was reading and then there were none, like I didn't know what the answer was, and it was really keeping me in. I was like, man, I gotta try and figure this out. But like I didn't know. So it's like, I gotta keep reading, see what happens next. And like here, I'm like, no, shut up. It's dinner time. I'm gonna have dinner after this. Or at least a snack. Anyway, it's like, why? It's like, if you already think you know, then yeah. So I feel like it's definitely Ferguson. I feel like that's my theory. I'm obviously something could come along and uproot that, but that's what I'm thinking, and I feel really confident in it. So yeah, I kind of hope that something comes up and disturbs my theory, because that means that the reading experience is more exciting. But I'm not hopeful. Okay, see you. Okay, so I finished chapter 14, and it reminded me of some things, some details that honestly I'd forgotten about, because, like, after a point, I was just so waiting for Lynette to die that I had forgotten that other things had happened, which is on me. I got impatient. So, I completely forgot about Lynette's pearls. She has these, like, 50,000 pound pearls, like really expensive, this really expensive pearl necklace, and they're gone. They were on her bedside table before she was murdered, and now they're gone. So that's another possible motive, is somebody wanted her pearls. And they did bring up Ferguson briefly, and then Simon originally couldn't think of anyone other than Jackie, who wanted Lynette dead, but then he said Windlesham and Sir George Woad, neither of whom are here, but that doesn't mean that somebody couldn't be an agent of them. Louise, the maid, says that one of the ship's engineers, Fleetwood, has previously made threats on Lynette's life, but considering that he wasn't introduced earlier in the story, I don't think he's a viable option for being the killer. Like, interesting, but we're halfway through the book, and he was never introduced before she was killed. So, that sounds fake. I'm gonna be so honest with you. That sounds so fake. So, we have this reminder of some information, and I'm gonna adjust my theory. I still think I'm correct on, like, all of the details for how it happened. They were listening at the port side door, took the gun, shot Lynette, threw it in the ocean, and that was the splash. That was heard. I'm gonna open the role of who it could be, from only considering Ferguson to also considering the legal man. I forgot his name. Fanthorpe, yes. I'm also considering Fanthorpe as a potential suspect at this point. I think Pennington technically could also have had the ability, but that doesn't feel right. Like, it feels a little bit not correct to me. So I'm thinking Ferguson or Fanthorpe, one or the other, as our killer. Like, I could be wrong, but yeah. And I'm still leaning towards Ferguson. I think the only thing that's, like, putting me off a little bit, especially after this chapter, is it feels too obvious. I mean, Agatha Christie's gotten me that way before. I thought that the killer in The Mysterious Affair at Styles couldn't possibly be the killer, because I thought that was way too obvious. But it shows what I know. So that could be it. It could be. It could be. It could not. It could be someone else, but like, that's the thing about Ferguson specifically, is, like, it feels so obvious that I'm actually doubting it. But no, I think it's either Ferguson or Fanthorpe. Maybe Pennington, but probably not. Anyone else? No, I don't think it's any of the women. I don't think they care enough. Like, it's not Cornelia, and I don't think Rosalie is that like that. And then the older women, neither of them have any proper motive for it. It's just, it doesn't make sense for it to be the older women. And I just, like, it just, no. No. Yeah, so I'm thinking um, either Fanthorpe or Ferguson. Maybe Pennington, but I doubt it. And I know they introduced Fleetwood as a guy with a motive, but like, ow, hurt. But no, he's introduced way too late. That's not. No, no, no. I'm still leaning towards Ferguson. Fanthorpe's a runner-up. Pennington's like, it's like Ferguson, Fanthorpe, Pennington, all the way down here. Okay. All right. So, I will see you after chapter 15, which might be tonight, but I might not be able to finish it tonight. Who knows? I've already read like a bunch of chapters today. Yeah. I'll see you then. Bye-bye. There are too many people in this book. I got Fanthorpe totally wrong, first off, because he was the person actually on the scene, and I forgot that he was the one on the scene. I remember that there was somebody on the scene, but I, in my head, was not paying attention to who that was. So I'm gonna go back to saying I think it was Ferguson, but this chapter did have some interesting thoughts in it. Tim, who heard the original incident, described the gunshot as a splash. And then we know that Fanthorpe and Mrs. Allerton both heard a splash later in the evening. So that might have been actually not something being thrown overboard, but the gunshot when Lynette was killed. So that's my thought. And it's suggested that the pearls going missing probably wasn't actually connected, and that it might have been that Louise took them. Which seems legit, because like the pearls were brought up in chapter 1 and then not again after. So it would feel kind of weird for that to be the primary motivation. They do spend some time interrogating Fleetwood, which I think is a waste of time because, like, not that they know that, because, like, they're in universe, but, like, narratively it's a waste of time. He was introduced way too late. Like, oh, he was, talking to Louise one time in the corridor. No. Narratively, that just is stupid. You wouldn't introduce the killer that late. Like, that's dumb. Anyway, so that's a really dumb idea. And then, yeah, and then they throw out the idea that maybe Pennington might have done it because he thought Simon was an easier mark to mess with their finances and speculate on the stock market. So that's Pennington's a possible. Yes. So I still think Ferguson's like the most likely, and additionally, the race, whatever, Colonel Race says, like, oh, his fellow. I'm still pretty convinced that that's Ferguson. Even if it turns out that Ferguson isn't the one who killed Lynette, I am 100% convinced that Ferguson is the escaped agitator of Colonel Ray's. Like, are you kidding? Like, no, 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 no. Of course he is. I'm not stupid. Do you think I'm stupid? Do you think I'm stupid, lady who's dead because you died of old age? Old woman? Do you think I'm dumb? Obviously not, because you are dead and you're not listening to me. But anyway, so I think, yeah, I'm thinking Ferguson is definitely Colonel Race's killer that he's trying to track down. Is he the killer of Lynette? Maybe, maybe not. Might have been Pennington, and apparently there's somebody here who their family was pushed into poverty by Lynette's father, and we don't know who that is, but we know it's not the Allertons because he asks. Porto asks Mrs. Allerton. She's like, no. Like, interest rates are lower than they used to be. But no, our money is still from our own accounts. It's less than we had before because interest rates are lower, but like it's still ours, you know? So that's where we're at right now. I still think Ferguson is like the most compelling suspect. I'm promoting Pennington to second most likely suspect. But yeah, that's my thoughts right now. Stop. And yeah, so I'll see you after chapter 16. Yep. Okay, see you then. Bye. So this was a shorter chapter. Chapter 16 was pretty short. You can see I only had a little bit of notes to take. But I am getting some odd vibes. So the pistol was thrown overboard. And Porto is like, that's weird as shit because they went through all the trouble to like frame Jackie. So why would they throw Jackie's monogrammed pistol overboard? That doesn't make any sense. So here's my thought. Someone came upon the scene afterwards and tried to clean it up. Or someone came upon the scene afterwards and did the frame up job. One or the other. Like, have y'all ever played Danganronpa? If you have, the first game, the second case, you know what I'm talking about? That's kind of the vibe I'm getting from this, is that someone went in after the fact and they changed up the crime scene. That's what I'm getting. And Miss Van Skyler says that at 1:10, when she woke up, she saw Rosalie Otterborn on the deck. And she was leaning over the side. And that's when everyone heard the splash. So that might have been when... So she might have been the one to throw the pistol overboard. But I don't think she's the one who murdered him. Again, Danganronpa True Heavy Havoc Case 2. If you know how that trial plays out, yeah. So I'm thinking Thinking Rosalie's like our, you know, I don't want to spoil it. I like Danganronpa, it's fun. Oh my god. I should replay Danganronpa. I have it on my iPad, and I played it a lot. One time I went to the beach and I played Danganronpa on the balcony, not of the hotel room, and that was fantastic. I loved that. That was great. I wish I had a balcony. I like sitting on balconies. They're nice. Anyway, yeah. So that's sort of the vibe I'm getting, is that Rosalie went in after the fact and cleaned up the crime scene a little bit. Why? I don't know. It's either that or someone cleaned, someone went in later to do the J. Yeah. I mean, we all know the dying message was fake as hell. Like, we know. Like, we all know the dying message is fake as hell. It's not even a very good frame-up job. I still think it's probably Ferguson or Pennington who's the murderer. I'm thinking Rosalie is our rival character, to use a Danganronpa term. Yeah. Which is fascinating because Danganronpa rival characters usually tend to be prissy boys or chaotic boys or both. I would argue Nagito is both prissy and chaotic. I like Byakuya better. He's just prissy. Alright, I will see you after chapter 17, which might not be until tomorrow. I'm not sure. Probably not. I'm tired and my makeup is smudged and I already fixed it once. But it is what it is. Alright. See you. Alright. For me, it's been a couple days because, you know, like I said, I get all of my books from the library, and I have 5 books at a time usually, and I have a bunch of holds, and a hold came in, but which is why we're back on this, because this is the book that's closest to finishing, so I need to finish it as fast as possible. But there are 3 people who have one of the other books I have out, also on hold, and I was like, oh, I should go ahead and finish that one. I'm not doing a vlog for that one. I'm going to do a book review when I'm finished with it, because it's not a mystery. It's Andy Weir's Artemis, so be on the lookout for that, I guess. And yeah, but one of my holds came in, and so I need to clear up space on my shelf. So we're getting back to this one, which is exciting because I'm really excited to read this one. But, so, chapter 17. Alright, we have a few different people come in and talk to Poro and Brace. And it's interesting, the information we get. Rosalie denies throwing anything overboard. Even after hearing that Miss Van Schuyler saw her, she continues to deny it. Mr. Zotterborn comes in, immediately starts talking about how sensual the act of murder is, and then they kick her out because they think she's annoying. Which might come back to bite them. I'm gonna hold on to that thought, and it might come back to bite them. And then Richetti and Ferguson both corroborate the splash. And then Ferguson literally calls Lynette's murder the good work, which, I've been talking a lot about how I think it was probably Ferguson, but I don't feel like he'd be that open about it after the fact if it was actually him. You know what I mean? I feel like that's not the vibe. So now I'm a little uncertain. I'm still pretty certain that they're correct. Somebody was listening at the port side and they, or whatever side, I don't fucking remember. What do you want? Okay. I know, this is riveting content. Me flipping through my notebook. Okay. I guess I didn't write it down because I'm not seeing it here. I think it was the port side because I wrote down that Fanthorpe is on the starboard side. That's where his room is. So, yeah, we have all this. So I'm not sure. I'm thinking maybe more Pennington, but I'm not certain. Like, Pennington's kind of... He is making himself suspicious, but I'm almost like... I'm not sure. Because it's like there's only so many people it could be, right? Because we know it wasn't Fanthorpe, which is terrible for my theories, because honestly, if he hadn't been there, like literally been there, I would say it was Fanthorpe. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he went to look for the pistol and he pocketed it while he said it was missing. I mean, I guess that's possible. So I'm not going to rule him out, actually. I'm going to say maybe it was Fanthorpe. But, otherwise, I'm thinking, maybe like Pennington, or I'm not thinking it was Fleetwood. He was introduced too late, and I don't think that they're gonna pull something completely wacky. So I'm thinking Pennington or Fanthorpe, or like maybe it is still Ferguson, but like he's just making himself look really suspicious as a red herring. And like there's suspicion on Rosalie, but I don't feel like that's it. Like I don't feel like that's it. That don't make sense to me. Like it almost like I mentioned before, like I could see like a like a case 2 Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc case 2 sort of situation. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't want to hear spoilers for the first Danganronpa game, like skip ahead like a minute, I guess. But no, like in the second trial, like when Byakuya comes in and he messes with the crime scene, right? So like that's sort of the vibe I'm getting here is that somebody killed Lynette, and then they got rid of the gun, and then somebody else came in later, discovered the body, and then did it up, right? To frame Jackie. That's my thought, is that there were multiple people there. So there was the murderer, and then somebody who disguised the crime to frame Jackie, and then probably a third person to steal the pearls, because we're leaning towards it being Luis the maid, right, who stole the pearls. So murderer, frame up artist, pearls. That's my thought, is that there were 3 different people. And they were all, so, like, my thought is maybe Rosalie is the murderer, but she didn't do the frame-up job. Either that or she did the frame-up job, but she didn't do the murder. And Louise stole the pearls.
8:47. Good evening.
Thank you, Minnie Mouse. Very helpful. And so I'm thinking maybe Rosalie for one of them, if it's like 3 different people in there. But if it's only one person, no, she's not involved. I don't buy it. Nuh-uh. Not a bit. So, yeah, that's my thought for chapter 17. So, I will see you when I finish chapter 18. Yep. Alright, okay, so I read chapter 18. My notes. So, I noticed a couple of things when I was reading the chapter. First off, Pennington comes in. He claims to have heard no shots. And he's super resolute that it was Jackie, even though Poirot's like, no, she was doped up and there was no nurse watching her. There's no way. He's like, I bet she figured it out somehow. I bet that nurse fell asleep and Jackie slipped out. Okay, whatever, man. So, he also wasn't present for the first attempt on Lynette when the boulder fell, but he lies about where he was. During that, it says he was inside the temple, and Poirot was like, no, he won't. He wasn't. No, he wasn't. So, I actually made a list of everyone for the attempt in chapter 10. I didn't rewrite the list, so we're flipping back to my chapter 10 page. And Lynette and Simon were almost crushed by a rock. Jackie was still on the boat. Poirot and Tim were present, and they tried to warn them to get out of the way of the rock. Also visible at that time were Miss Van Skyler, Mrs. Allerton, Miss Bowers, and Mrs. Otterborn, which to me says these characters are all innocent. Those characters are. So Jackie, Simon, Tim, Mrs. Allerton, Miss Van Skyler, Miss Bowers, and Miss Otterborn. That doesn't super narrow things down. I didn't really suspect any of them anyway. But, like, that is important. You know, not being on that list means you're still a suspect. But it does, help us, like, file things down. Because before we only had, like, 3 people we were absolutely certain didn't do it. And now we have, like, 5 or 6 more. So that's good. And they talk a little bit about, they're going to announce the theft of the pearls at lunch so that nobody has time to, like, hide them between the announcement and when they get searched. I think Pennington's currently the most suspect because he's just being kind of a douche. But, like, you can be douchey and not be a murderer. So maybe he's just committing fraud as an accountant. No, I don't like that either. Then they do ask, how did the stole end up wrapped around the pistol and thrown overboard? They don't know because they're like, oh, it went missing, but did it really go missing? I think it definitely actually went missing, especially since it belonged to Miss Van Skyler, who I'm pretty sure did not do it because she was not involved with the first attempt. And unless there were multiple people involved, which obviously there could be, but I don't think it was her. Like, obviously, there could be multiple people. I know I've tossed out the idea that there were two people and that there was one person who actually did the murder and then a second person who came in to do the frame up job against Jackie. I still think that's the case, but I'm leaning towards the frame up job being Pennington and the murder being Rosalie. That's my thought process right now. That's what I'm thinking right now. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. You know, I make one of these little check ins like after every chapter. So you have heard all of my crazy theories. You have heard all my crazy theories. Anyway, so Race is like, makes like a list though of like everyone he thinks is like possibly suspect versus. Oh my god, is it fucking storming? I keep seeing lightning in the window in the video. It's fine. We're fine. I have a surge protector, so we're fine. Anyway, he has a list, right? And he puts on that list two characters I would not have put on the side of they definitely didn't fucking do it. And those are Rossetti, the Italian man, and Fanthorpe. Which actually makes them a little more suspicious to me that we're like writing them off right now. But Poirot agrees with this list, but which I think is bullshit. Poirot, you're supposed to be a fabulously talented detective. Why are you writing off Fanthorpe? I mean, I guess actually that makes a whole lot of sense because we have context that Poirot does not. We know that there is a connection between Fanthorpe and not necessarily Lynette directly, but with Pennington. So I definitely think that there's a motive in Fanthorpe going for the kill. That's why I've been throwing him around a little bit as like, oh, I think maybe he did it. So, yeah, I'm gonna say Fanthorpe is like my backup. Yeah, so that's another option is Fanthorpe as the murderer, and then again, I still think Pennington as the frame up artist. And I know the book hasn't said that there's two people involved, but I think maybe there's two people involved. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so I also don't know how you gender a handkerchief. I wrote a note on that, but they talk about that. Apparently, it's a man's handkerchief that was bundled with the stole and the gun. I don't know how the fuck you determine that. Like, this my handkerchief is just kind of gross. I don't think it has anything to do with my gender. I think it has to do with the fact that it is a white piece of cloth that is used to clean noses. I don't know, man. Also, at the end of the chapter, Poirot calls attention to Lynette's like state, like how peaceful she was when she died. She's like, did you notice anything about how peaceful she was and like her state? And he mentions her being peaceful and having a little hole in her head. And I actually went back to chapter 13 to read the description of when they find her, and they don't really mention a whole lot more than that, except they do mention that Lynette is lying on her side, which makes me wonder if there's something like important about that, like there's something being hidden underneath her, like on the other side of her head, because like, you know, because like most of the time, like when you get shot, assuming that like it's not from really far away, then like, or like really small or really slow, I guess, like bullets are really fast, and like obviously there's a lot of resistance going through somebody because like that's how physics works. But um exit wounds, it mentions that it's a little hole So, do you think maybe she was actually shot in the other side of the head and they rolled her over? So we're seeing the exit wound rather than the entrance wound? Is that where he's going with that? I'm not really sure where he's going with that, but that's my thought is like entry and exit wounds. Oh my god, the lightning. Oh my fucking god. Okay. But that's my thought is entry and exit wounds. So, yeah, that is what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. But I'm still thinking, I'm leaning towards Rosalie or Fanthorpe as a killer, and then I think there was a separate frame up artist who went in and did the big J in the blood, and I think that was probably Pennington, because he seems like really sure that it was Jackie. But like, Poirot's right. It does not make sense for someone to do the big J and then throw the gun overboard also. So that's why I think they were actually two different people. One person who killed her and one person who did the frame up job. So yeah, that's my thoughts after chapter 18. I'll see you after chapter 19. Alright, so I finished chapter 19. As you can see. So this one clears up some things, but makes others more interesting. So we get an explanation for the splash at 110, and it wasn't the pistol at all. It was Rosalie throwing her mother's alcohol overboard, which seems like an inefficient solution. Have you considered, I don't know, did rehabs exist back then? She's just gonna get pissed and then buy more. Like, that's that's a very temporary solution, and you're just gonna make her upset. Also, she's being a terrible mother to Rosalie. Apparently, all of this is because her books aren't selling, which seems fake. Like, feminist smut? She's a feminist smut writer. I don't know, I feel like that would sell pretty well. People love smut. All the time they do. Like, what are you talking about? Sex wasn't selling? Are you kidding? Maybe you weren't advertising to the right demographic. Like, don't try to sell smut at a convent. Or do. They might be freaks. I don't know. But, like, point is, like, don't, like, market to perverts. Obviously, if you're gonna sell smut, you have to market it to perverts. Like, try harder. Try harder. I think this is a marketing failure. Either that or you really suck at writing. But, like, if they were selling to begin with, then it's unlikely that she sucked at writing. It's more likely a marketing failure. So, like, that sounds like a thing that you could fix and not something that should drive you to alcoholism. I don't know. Sounds like you're just a bitch. Anyway, so, and also, Simon and Jackie might be getting back together by the end of this book. Oh my god. Because, like, Simon's like, can you get Jackie so that we can talk? And then she starts sobbing, and then they're, like, all over each other again. I'm like, oh my god. Jackie's a fucking saint if she takes Simon back, but I feel like she's going to. Like, she never got over him, so she's gonna do it, which is so dumb, but whatever. Whatever. It's her prerogative, I guess. She also gets likened to a child a lot, including by Simon. Like, Poirot does it, and, like, that's fine because he's Poirot. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. But, like, Simon also does it. He calls Jackie a kid multiple times. It's really weird how, like, she's both a love interest for him and someone he infantilizes. I know, like, it's an older book, But, like, it's still weird. Okay? Like, it's still fucking weird. Like, that's. I don't know about that. Okay. So, I don't know how this affects my, like, thought process for the murder. It makes me think. Like, I'm not sure that it really does anything other than make me think, oh, I don't think it was Rosalie who did the murder. Because, like, if she was throwing her mom's alcohol overboard, she wasn't shooting Lynette. So, this seems to absolve her of any crime. But other than, like, throwing out her mom's alcohol, which is a waste of money. Like, you could at least, like, try to resell it. You'd get a taker somewhere. Maybe not make a profit, but, like, alcohol's expensive, man. There's a reason I don't drink it. It costs way too much. Like, if you're gonna give me free alcohol, I'll drink that. I will not buy alcohol because it is too much money. Anyway, like, yeah. So that means I'm still thinking that it might have been two people, like a murderer and a frame-up artist, but, like, we're with Rosalie off the table. I'm still thinking Pennington for the frame-up. I think he came in after the fact, after Lynette was already dead, and did the fake dying message. That's what I think happened there. And then I think that Fanthorpe is, I think, the most likely candidate for the murderer. I'm still thinking Ferguson's a suspect. Like, I think he's a little too obvious, but, like, honestly, at this point, they're either super obvious or the denouement is gonna come out of super left field, I feel like. So, yeah, I'm thinking either Fanthorpe or Ferguson, but I'm leaning towards Fanthorpe for the murder, and then Pennington came in afterwards and did the frame up job. They weren't affiliated, um, but it worked out that way. Yeah, that's my thought at this point in time. See you after chapter 20. Guess who's back for yet another video today? Well, it's still the same video, but another. Well, it will be the same video when I edit it together, but it's a new recording. It's my, like, fourth recording today. I'm saying, yeah, fourth. Finished chapter 20. So, as you can see, we have me almost dropping my notebook. But we have some stuff happening. Not a lot. This is a pretty short chapter. But we do learn that Miss Bowers is currently in possession of the pearls. I'm so bad at this because I keep looking at the recording as it's being recorded, and I keep trying to do things and it's mirrored, and I keep wanting to move. I keep looking at it and then trying to move the wrong hand. Very exciting. Okay. I'm sure I'll get better at it with practice. Anyway. So, Miss Bowers has the pearls. I know. And I had a thought. So, Joanna was brought up again, and it made me think about how in the early book, Mrs. Allerton mentions that Tim never shows her Joanna's letters, which makes me wonder if maybe I should be suspecting Tim. Maybe Joanna wanted her dead for some reason. I don't know why Joanna would want that, but it's a angle, so I'm gonna consider it. And also, Tim heard about the pearls from Ferguson, who heard it from Fleetwood, who heard it from Louise. So that's interesting. And also, Mrs. Allerton is sympathetic to Jackie, but has a very romantic sort of idea of this whole kit and caboodle. You know, she thinks that, it's all gonna work out, just like in a detective novel. Probably because she's in a detective novel, it will. But her son is like, Ma, this is real life. You know? So, that's what's happening. So I am considering Tim more of a suspect. And Miss Bowers having the pearls does make me suspect her a little bit. But I don't know when she would have had an opportunity to obtain the pistol. So that makes me think that she's not the murderer. Because I don't think she would have had a chance between when it got dropped and when Fanthorpe went back for it, because she was in with Jackie at that time, like the whole time that we saw her there. So I do think that I'm still kind of stuck on this idea. Like, I know I'm probably crazy for coming up with it, but like the idea that I need to put my earrings on, that there was a second person who was a frame up person who wasn't the murderer, but they came in afterwards and did the J on the wall, and they've tried to frame Jackie. It would be a weird move for that to be Mrs. Bowers, because she is also part of Jackie's alibi. But like, I do not, unless there's like three people, which obviously I think there probably were three people at this point. So that's my thought, is that there was the murderer, a frame up job, and the pearls were taken. And so it looks like Miss Bowers took the pearls. But that still leaves, like, the frame up person and the murderer. And I'm like, maybe the frame up person doesn't exist, but like, that's what it feels like to me, based on my positionality as someone who has consumed other mystery stories, specifically like Danganronpa, and I've watched someone else play Phoenix Wright. I don't own Phoenix Wright, but I have watched other people play Phoenix Wright. So yeah, I've played Danganronpa. I've watched other people play Phoenix Wright. Like, those are very modern mystery stories. When I was a kid, I forgot the name of the series, but there was like these mysteries that they weren't like murder mysteries, but they were like different mysteries that happened at different like locations. Like, they were at famous locations throughout, mostly I think the US. I don't remember if there were any that were not the US. I remember that book 6 was at Disney World, and their kids kept going missing, and I do not remember the end of that story, but I do remember that they would go on the rides, and then a kid would go missing on the ride. And at the end, it's the last kid going on the ride and just being like freaked the fuck out. I don't remember the title of that book, but I stayed up all night to read it the first time I had my hands on it. Oh my god, that was a good book. Anyway, yeah. So, like, I have like, and I've read other read other Agatha Christie's and I've read some other mystery books, I'm pretty sure. I feel like I've read more mystery books, but I cannot think of the names of them right at the moment. But it happens. Anyway, point is, like, my experience with mystery stories and mysteries in general tells me, like, that it doesn't make sense that somebody threw the pistol overboard, but they also left the fake dying message. Oh, there are multiple people involved. Like, that's what it says to me based on my positionality. So that's what my thought is. So I'm thinking at this point that there are probably 3 people, and one of them is the frame up job, one of them is the murderer, and then Miss Bowers stole the pearls. That's my thought. I'm still thinking Pennington for the frame up job, and Fanthorpe or Ferguson for the murder. But maybe also Tim for the murder? It's a thought. Like, not, he doesn't personally have anything against Lynette, but I think maybe Joanna could convince him. So that's my thought. I think Pennington did the frame up. Miss Bowers, we know, stole the pearls. And then the murder itself was either Fanthorpe, Ferguson, or Tim. Okay, I will see you after chapter 21. And eventually, at some point, we will learn if I am correct about any of the bullshit that comes out of my mouth. Yippee. Alright, so I finished chapter 21. And this was another short chapter, so I'm not sure that I have too much to say, but it does throw a wrench into things. So we learned that Miss Bowers had the pearls, but they were fake. And also she didn't take them. So according to Miss Bowers, Miss Van Skyler took the pearls because she's a kleptomaniac. That's actually why she has a live-in nurse, which is, I didn't know that was a thing you could employ live-in nurses for, but sure. And also, Miss Van Skyler is hard of hearing, and she had claimed that she heard scuffling in Lynette's room last night, but it was likely she was just looking to go commit theft. That's exciting. And then Poirot tastes the pearls and he says they're fake. So we don't know where the real pearls are. I suspect that Miss Bowers and Miss Van Skyler thought they were real. Which leaves the question of when were they stolen? Also, the boat was all quiet, so somebody should have heard something, and they're like, Pennington was close enough, he should have heard something. So Pennington is looking even more suspicious. I still think Pennington is the frame-up artist, the person who tried to pin it on Jackie and not the murderer. But I also know that they're not looking for a murderer and a separate frame-up artist. So, but I think based on what I've seen in the past, that Pennington tried to frame Jackie after already finding Lynette dead at someone else's hand. That's my thought. So I think he heard it, and then I think he tried to frame Jackie. That's my thought. It's all very tell them that but I don't know. I actually am wondering if Tim took the pearls, because last chapter, I didn't write anything about it down because it didn't seem super relevant at the time, but that's the thing about mystery novels, is that they slip in important details in a way that's like completely innocuous. So like, I think that's really the thing about mysteries that is so fascinating, is that it's always possible, but the details are slipped in such a way that if you don't know what you're looking for, it is super easy. Ignore the fact that it's storming. Super easy to miss them because you don't know what's important and what isn't. And the story in a good mystery writer is good at calling attention to other details, other facets of the story. So then they were gossiping about Joanna, and this is, I did write down, talking about Joanna and how she, like Tim and all that. Mrs. Allerton brings up that Tim has been involved with a theft before, and she mentions this family that I forgot their names, but mentions that he was at their house when they learned that the lady of the house's diamonds had been replaced with plaster. Ooh. But they had probably already been missing for months. So that's a really odd coincidence to bring up the chapter before we learn that Lynette's pearls have been replaced by decoys. So my thought is Tim stole the pearls and replaced them with fakes. The fakes got stolen by Miss Van Schuyler. And then someone snuck in, shot Lynette dead. I'm still thinking it was probably either Fanthorpe or Ferguson. I could be wrong, but those are the two I'm thinking of. And then Pennington heard, and he came in after Lynette was dead and saw her lying there. I was like, God, it has to be that girl, Jackie. I'm going to make it super obvious. And then he faked the dying message. That's my thought. That is my thought for what's going on based on the information I currently have. And maybe you've already, I'm figure if you're watching this, you've already read the book. So maybe you're thinking, where are you coming up with these concepts and why are you dragging them around? They're my concepts and they're my theory, and I'm going to drag them around and fold them to what I see fit. Okay? They fit with what I know and my paradigm of knowledge. So, anyway, that's what I'm thinking right now, and I'll talk to you after chapter 22. Okay, I remembered to go put my earrings on. They're clip-ons. I have another pair that are studs, but they do not look as good because they are clip-ons, so the hoops look better. Anyway, I finished chapter 22. The mystery deepens. I also did peek at the first page of chapter 23 because at the end of chapter 22 we learn that the maid Louise is under the bed, and I wanted to know if she was alive or dead. And the first sentence of chapter 23 told me she was dead. So I feel like that's important information for theorizing on. So Louise is dead. She was killed very recently, and she's under the bed in her cabin. So sounds like she knew something that somebody didn't want getting out. So that's exciting. But we learn that also it really does look like Simon and Jackie are going to get back together. Jackie, do not take this man back. I feel like she's going to, but oh my God. Girl, you have the patience of a fucking saint. That man does not deserve you. That man does not fucking deserve you. Anyway, it is noted that both Chetty and Rosalie had small guns, and that Rosalie's is almost the exact same specs as Jackie's. Like, it's even also got a pearl handle. So, that's interesting. Also, it's at this point that Race and Poirot have brought up there being a second person. Not in the same way that I've been theorizing. They theorize that they theorized more that somebody came in and tried that the murderer tried to frame up Jackie, and that someone came in afterwards to clean up the scene. Whereas I theorized that someone killed Lynette and just wanted to get away with it, and then somebody else came in and they tried to pin the crime on Jackie. So I'm still sticking with that. We know Louise didn't have anything to do with it because she's dead. Honestly, I didn't expect her to have anything to do with it anyway. But her death does kind of implicate that sector, the Fleetwood and Ferguson, that crowd a little bit more. It makes me think more along the lines of one of them did it for political reasons. I still don't like Fleetwood as a suspect because he was introduced so late in the story. Like, that to me screams cheap. But Ferguson, we also learn, has really nice underwear. There's a weird detail. I don't know what this means, but it stood out to me, so it's a note here, which suggests maybe that for all his communist talk, he did grow up benefiting from the capitalist system. That's my thought. Is that he's hiding something about his background. That's what I'm thinking. And maybe he's in disguise. I really do think he's Race's man, Colonel Race. I think he's Colonel Race's man. Is he also Lynette's murderer? Maybe. Maybe not. I still like Fanthorpe for the murder. I know, insane pick, considering, like, we saw him, like, not find the pistol. But, I mean, I read Roger Ackroyd. She's done crazier shit. I didn't enjoy Roger Ackroyd, but that's because it got spoiled for me. I will hunt you down, forward writing woman. I will hunt you down. I will hunt you down. What am I gonna do when I hunt you down? I don't actually know, because I don't think that that's a capital offense. I just want to yell at you. So I'm gonna hunt you down and yell at you to be less obvious. I guess I don't technically have to hunt you down. If you watch this, I can yell at you right now. Don't be so fucking obvious. Jesus. Anyway. Yeah, so it looks like... Also, Tim has kept no letters from Joanna, which is very suspicious to me. So that I still like Tim for the jewel thief. So that's my thought right now, is that Tim stole the pearls a while back and replaced them with fakes, using models and sketches of the pearls sent from Joanna. Then last night, the fakes were swiped by Miss Van Scholar, So do you think that's why she's not married? Because she's a kleptomaniac? Because, like, I mean, obviously there are totally other reasons you could be not married, but it is odd, especially for an upper class family, for her to not be married. I don't know. Seems like an interesting detail. Anyway, so I'm thinking that Tim stole them. They were replaced by Tim with help from Joanna to give him the schematics of how to make the fakes. And then we have Miss Van Skyler takes the fakes. That's my thoughts there. And then someone shot her. I'm thinking Ferguson. It could also be Rosalie, since she had a very similar gun. But I'm thinking Ferguson because I don't know why Rosalie would want to kill her. Like, I feel like that's, the mens rea or whatever. I didn't go to law school yet. Maybe I'll go to law school sometime in the future. Follow me and give me money. And maybe I'll go to law school. I'm kidding. You don't have to give me any money. You just have to listen to me talk. I'd rather have you listen to me talk anyway. Don't throw money at me to make me shut up. Just listen to me talk. Because I love talking. And I love talking to people. Yippee, yippee. Anyway. So, I think that probably Ferguson shot her and tried to clean up the scene to make it like, not like there was no evidence against anybody, and that's why they got rid of the pistol. And then Pennington heard, because he was close enough, he should have heard, and he goes into the room and Lynette's dead. He's like, oh shit. And so then he tries to pin it on Jackie because, for as far as he's concerned, she's been super hostile to Lynette the whole time, and he doesn't know about the whole thing with Simon and the fact that Jackie is in with the nurse and also doped up on morphine. So he goes in there and he's like, ah, shit. Well, I don't really want people looking too deeply into this, so I'm gonna just pin it on Jackie, and then we just don't have to think about it anymore. So that's what I think happened as of right now. But, we're at the point in the story where even like short chapters give us a lot of information. And that doesn't really explain why Louise is dead. My guess is she knew something, but we don't know what. So I'm gonna be back soon with new theories, ones that maybe make better account of Louise's movements. Okay, it's getting like late for me, so I want to keep this brief. Hopefully. But yeah, so I finished chapter 23. Why do I keep doing this? I don't know. It sounds nice though. Anyway, so we learn Louise was stabbed in the heart, and she tries to solve the murderer and intended to blackmail them. They paid her in French and or mixed money. Poirot says that this is normal for travelers. I don't know if this is a time thing or Faye's never been outside of the United States thing, but I have no idea what he's talking about. Alright, and then we have, she was stabbed with something very thin and pointy, and it made me think of meat on the bone. If you know, you know. So then he goes to talk to Jackie and Rosalie, who are comparing lipsticks. I like my lipstick. It was less than $2 at the CVS, and it looks fantastic. And then Rosalie notices she's under suspicion, and Poirot suggests that she saw someone come out of Lynette's cabin last night. And she's afraid to say anything because she fears that she will be killed, like Louise. And he suggests they went into one of the last 2 cabins on the hallway, but I have no idea who stays anywhere because I need a map. And I don't remember getting one in here. Like, and I wouldn't know where to find it if there was one because yeah, I mean, I can check my notes. If there was one, I think I would have written it down. I know I didn't see one today, so why does one of my notes just say sweaty? If there was a map, it was before Lynette died. And I don't know why there would be a map before Lynette died because they're not paying attention, much attention. I need a map. I need a map. I need a map. This is ridiculous. I don't know who was in the last 2 cabins because I don't fucking remember where everybody is staying. But sounds like Rosalie knows something. Also, they pissed off Bessner. They were like, Bessner, are any of your surgical tools missing? Well, if they were, obviously he would have washed them, and then they wouldn't be missing if he was the killer. Why are you bent out of shape? If they're like, you're not stupid. If you killed her with one of those, then you just wash it and put it back. You're supposed to have them anyway. Why would you get rid of it? Just wash it, dumbass. It wasn't a fucking accusation. It was asking if you were missing any. That would mean somebody robbed you, stupid head. God, men are so stupid. Even when they're being written by women, men are so stupid because they are men. And they have always been like that. That is my opinion. Well, not all men are stupid. Poirot seems to be fairly intelligent. It is his profession. He is a detective. And I like that we have third person limited, so we're not following somebody around. And we're not stuck in Poirot's head all the time. Yeah. So those are my thoughts. I don't think I have any alterations to make to my proposed order of events of what happened to Lynette. I still think Tim stole the pearls. Miss Van Skyler stole the fake pearls. Ferguson, or possibly Fanthorpe, shot Lynette, and then Pennington framed Jackie for it, in that order. So, those are my thoughts. And I will see you after the next chapter. Okay, so I'm currently a little bit jittery because it's late and I'm running on fumes, but I want to try and read a little bit more tonight. And a little bit irritated, not because of the book, because of something that happened in my real life. Some friends online, you know how it is. So, yeah. Anyway, I did finish chapter 24. Boom, boom, boom. We have another death. I didn't know there were going to be this many people dead. Especially with how long it took for even one person to die. I was so irritated. You saw it. And now there are 3 people dead. So Mrs. Otterborn is dead. Her timing was atrocious when she first stormed in. She was like, no, I saw who killed Louise. And then she got shot, right before she could say it. So, with Pennington's gun, but he was downstairs. He says he was downstairs for 20 minutes. Poirot also says that he knows what's happening, but he has no proof, so he's not saying anything yet. Which is so frustrating. At this point, just say it. Arrest some bitches. Jesus. Also, Tim was the first to respond, which makes me a little suspicious of him. I still really like him for the theft, but not the murder. However, he's been acting so suspect, and when Poirot is giving his rundown to Colonel Race, he mentions the Allertons a lot, which makes me think that maybe he's the killer. Maybe. I don't really like him for it, because I like him better for the theft than the murder. But he's a decent suspect. So, yeah. And then, but he also calls a lot of attention to Ricetti's telegram, which Simon was going to recite, and then Mrs. Otterborn came in because her timing is shitty as hell. Wait 10 more minutes. 5 more minutes, please. 1 more minute. So we still don't know what that said, but I feel like it's important or they wouldn't have been talking about it and cut it off. I'm frustrated now. So, yeah. I'm a little more suspicious of Tim now, but I still think I like my theory that I already had the best. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna stick with my current theory, but Tim is looking more suspicious, and now Mrs. Otterborn is dead. Tragic. Well, Rosalie, you don't have to worry about your mother being drunk anymore because she's not with us anymore. Happens, I guess. I'm very tired. I gave myself an amount that I was gonna read before I went to sleep, but it has gotten very late. So yeah, we're gonna just talk about this chapter briefly. Most of it is I'm not sure that most of it is relevant because most of it is Ferguson attempting to propose to Cornelia and her not being receptive. And then Poirot comes in at the end and is like, that's Lord Dawlish, but he became a communist when he was at university. Good for him, but I'm sure you could do better to redistribute the wealth, my dude, my guy. Most people don't really want like an angry bitch. They want a paycheck. You could try donating your money. Be a lot more effective than telling people that the death of another rich person is the good work. Have you considered donating your money to charity? Fund a nunnery. I did some reading about nuns recently. Well, I did reading about fashion history. Then we're talking about nun habits. In this book, over here, dress codes. This is actually my second time reading it, so I'm not gonna make a video on it. But, yeah. Did you know that nuns, a nun's habit was actually based on around the time that it was originally adopted? It was a married woman's attire because nuns were believed to be married to Jesus spiritually. Even as late as the 1960s, nuns would be inducted into some convents by way of a marriage ceremony where their father would give them away and they would wear a wedding dress, and some of them would even be given a wedding band. The more you know. The more you know. Anyway, yeah, you could do that with your money. It would be more useful than this. Also, Mrs. Allerton says she'll stay with Rosalie and then also calls her pathetic. And Pennington could have swung over the deck to the lower decks. It doesn't look good for Pennington. I'm really tired. I do not have the energy to come up with new theories. So we're gonna have to stick with my old theory, except maybe Pennington was the one who killed her. And someone else did the frame up job. I don't know, I still feel like they're different. Phew. Okay, we're gonna... Ugh. No, there's... I'm gonna read like a few more pages tonight, but I don't think we're gonna get to another check-in because I wasn't planning to read that many more pages, and unless next chapter is really short, I don't think I'm gonna finish it tonight. So I'll be wearing something different when I check in next, probably. Yep. See you after chapter 26. Back to my reading vlog for Death on the Nile. Death on the blah 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 blah. I cannot talk today. Yeah, it's been a few days since I last did anything, but as you can tell, I've changed my makeup. I'm going for a more like subtle look today. I'm not sure how I like it because like I don't know. I was just trying to get like something that like makes the shadow of my eyelids like look less for the eyeshadow. because I've noticed that like I do prefer like the blues, but you can really see those, and and like that, even though that's my preferred, you can still really see those, and sometimes that can like make my dark circles look worse, make it look like I have like black eyes, but I don't. So I wanted to go for like some more subtle colors today, and I paired it with like a clear lip gloss to sort of like make it look more subtle. Um, that's not relevant. Anyway, I read chapter 26. I also got new markers. I went to the store and they had like a couple of sets of markers I didn't already have at the CVS. I bought like every art supply they have at my local CVS, as in all of them. All of them. Anyway, so there was like a couple of sets of markers that I just didn't have, so I got those. Anyway, so in chapter 26, like they basically just, I read like half of it and then I went and I read the entirety of Artemis, which I do have a video up on. You can watch it. Yippee yippee. So through this one, so these down here are from before I went to read Artemis, and then this like arc here is what I read today. So in this one, they talk about Pennington and Fanthorpe a little bit, mostly Pennington. By the time I got back, and I was about halfway through this chapter, because I was halfway through the like it, because it's like what, 15 pages. It was like 15, yeah, no, don't go to the next chapter. Yeah, it was 14 pages. No, 14 pages, and I had 7 left, so I was halfway through the chapter when I came back to it, and yeah, so but when I got back to it, they were just talking to Pennington, and what's really interesting is Poirot is saying that Pennington is the primary suspect, and that is what I was sort of leaning towards, but at the same time, they're calling him out like super early, basically, because like we still have like we're at 83% of the book, and like the book is including like about the author, also by Agatha Christie, the copyright page about the publisher, blah 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 blah, as part of the like thing, but like it still feels really early to be like nailing it in my opinion. It feels a little bit early, so like I'm still leaning towards him, but like I wouldn't be surprised if they pull out some other actor, some other suspect at this point. So yeah, so they're talking about like all of these different reasons that uh and then Pennington admits to being behind the boulder. He says it was an accident and that he didn't mean it. But the fact that he didn't like mention that before makes me like super suspect. What I almost suspect is that there were multiple people who were angling for her death. Like I know I've tossed around this idea that there were 3 people for Lynette's death initially, and I am leaning away from that. I've held on to that like theory for a while, but like some time away from it. I read the entirety of Artemis. Like I read some of In the Name of the Rose. Like I've read other books since then. While I do think that is definitely like probably the angle I would have gone with if I was the author, I'm not Agatha Christie, as much as I would love to be, because like I have an accounting background. I'm currently looking for a job in accounting. Probably going to get a job in accounting, but like my dream job is being an author. I just know that that's like not necessarily, like you have to be really lucky to be able to live as an author, because you have to get really well selling books. So like yeah, I'm invested in other skills so I can get another job, like a job that will get me a lot of money, but like my goal is I get a job that gets me a lot of money, and then I use that money to support my writing, and then maybe if I do get successful enough, then I quit said job and I just live off of my books. But, I'm 26. Not even. I'm 25. I turned 26 like later this year. Anyway, point is, like you have to have plans. But like, so like, yeah, I have a writing background because I do write, and so like, that's how I would write the story if I was writing it, but I don't think that's where Agatha Christie is taking it because like the subsequent deaths, I don't think line up with that hypothesis because I feel like the three people in there, the theft, the thief, the cover up, and the actual murderer, I feel like that model works really well if you are if you don't have the subsequent deaths, but because we have the subsequent deaths that we're trying to cover up what happened, I feel like that is really what prevents it from being three people. I think it does have to be one person because otherwise this whole rigmarole does not make a whole lot of sense, which is too bad. I liked the three people concept. I thought that was really fun and I thought it was really clever, but I think it was too clever for the book. But yeah, so and also they mentioned that two of the other trustees for Lynette's finances have died. So that Pennington is very suspect, and I do feel like he is the prime suspect. But because there's still 17% of the book left, I'm not gonna be surprised if it turns out that he's like a fake out and there's someone else because I feel like it's still a little early to be getting answers. I feel like we still need to have, like, I feel like the denouement shouldn't come in till there's only 10% of the story left. So, like, we're about 7% early. And, like, that's based on, like, general page numbers. Honestly, like, if we're looking at page numbers, also, hi, look, you can see my Artemis notes on the back here. If you're looking at like the page numbers strictly, you can see that we're on page, for me at least, we're on page 347 out of 420, which is part of the reason like I'm like, this is way too early. We have like 80 pages left. This feels like too many, especially considering the pacing of her other stories, especially Murder of Roger Ackroyd, which I read before I decided to start a YouTube channel, so it's not here. I already mentioned this, but, it's good to reiterate things. And in Roger Ackroyd, we don't get the reveal until there's only, like, one chapter or, like, half a chapter left. So there's only, like, a few pages after the denouement, which I think is really important because the fact that when in that one and in Murderous Styles, the story basically like ends after the denouement. There's not really a dissenting action. We have the denouement, the story's over. So the fact that we're getting Pennington as this primary suspect and getting all of this evidence for him at a point where you think you should be able to figure things out, but at the same time, it's a little bit too early for the denouement, makes me feel like he's gonna be a fake out. Like, maybe he was in on it, but I don't, or like he was a big part of it, but I don't feel like he's the guy because it doesn't make sense for them to be talking about it so soon. Does that make sense? You get what I'm saying? Okay. I do hope to finish Death on the Nile today, in part because I do have another book. My hold came in, so I want to get that today. And yeah, you're going to be seeing this in the middle, so I don't know why I'm giving you like all of these like updates of my life. Um, I will say I have checked out The Murder at the Vicarage, and if I do that one next, which I'm probably will, um, barring Name of the Rose, but Name of the Rose is really, really long, so I don't know that it's going to be the next video that comes out. But Murder at the Vicarage, I read about 2 chapters before I decided to start a YouTube channel, so that one I would not have um, vlog updates for the first 2 chapters. I would start at chapter 3. I don't know why I'm telling you this in the middle of this video. I guess I was just thinking about it, and I was like, oh, I need to tell people whatever. Anyway, I will see you after I read chapter 27. And yeah, I did check the number of chapters. There's 31. So we have 27, 28, 29, 30. I know I'm a fucking accountant. Why the fuck am I counting on my hand? So that's still five more segments. Yeah, so I will see you then. I'm back. I finished chapter 27. Was kind of like a nothing chapter. Basically, it just confirmed that the jewels, the pearls, had been replaced by Tim earlier on, which I figured out earlier. I thought he'd done it earlier in the trip, though. In the chapter, it reveals that he actually did it the same night that Lynette died. So I guess I was sort of onto something with my whole like 3 people theory. I think we're down to 2 people because obviously like we have Tim, and I guess technically what's her face, Miss Van Skyler could count as a 3rd person, but that's also to do with the pearls, which I had condensed into 1 person. So my like 3 people theory I still don't really think works out. But yeah, so this whole chapter is just Tim confirms that he's the jewel thief, and then Rosalie comes in and he admits to being the jewel thief to her. Poirot's like, if you bring them back, we can pretend this never happened, and I do not have to bring charges against you. Bitch, you're in a foreign country. I do not think you get to make that call. Also, you're a detective and you're not the police. I do not think you get to make that call. But that's very sweet of him. Overstepping his powers. Absolutely. But very sweet. And yeah. And then Rosalie and Tim get together, and that makes his mother very happy. So, who's even left to be the murderer? Because they also, immediately at the beginning, Poirot's like, there is no way Pennington was the killer. So, who is even left to be the, like, I feel like I'm running out of options, is the problem. Like, it's not that, like, it's like every time like somebody's suspect, they're like, oh, it's not that guy. Oh, it's not that guy. Oh, it's not that guy. There's like, I feel like there's not many options left. Like there's Fanthorpe, there's the communist guy, Ferguson. I'm running out of options. And Fanthorpe's kind of a weird one because like you want to believe that it's not him because of the way like the thing's set up. It's bizarre. It's bizarre. Actually, I could see an argument for still the 3 people theory if Pennington is the second person, the cover-up artist, but not the murderer. But I feel like he'd admitted to that last chapter if that was the case. Like, I feel like if you're gonna admit to pushing the boulder over, even if you're gonna claim it's an accident, you're gonna admit to messing with the crime scene. You know? Like, I feel like that's, like, something that would happen. Like, come on, my dude, my guy. Come on. Anyway, yeah, so that's my thought right now. Is, like, it's either Fanthorpe or Ferguson, but I also feel like I'm running out of suspects. So, like, at this point in the story, I don't feel like that's even like a really impressive call to make because there's just not a lot of people left. They either keep dying or they keep getting absolved of guilt. Pain in the neck. Yeah. So that's my thought. I do feel a little bit vindicated though, because I was like, because I called it. I called Tim and Joanna being jewel thieves. I fucking called it. Hell yes. Anyway, this would be like the Mysterious Affair at Styles if I get like everything, like all of the like drama surrounding the murder. Like I get on it at 100% and then I totally missed the murderer because that's what happened with Styles. I don't have a video for it because I read that before I started filming myself, but like that was a thing that like I called it. I called everything around the murder and completely missed the murderer. Like I had all of the drama like pinpointed and then I completely missed the murderer. Like I had all of the other twists except the killer, which is a little infuriating. And if that happens here as well, if it happens here as well, then it happens. But that is also still a little infuriating. So I guess we'll see because we only have like 4 chapters left. Thank you. I'll see you after the next chapter. Okay, so I just finished chapter 28. Here's my notes on it. Not all of them are very visible because I made the choice. I have a lot of art supplies for, art reasons. I love to draw. Not particularly good at it, so I'm not sure that I'm going to be showing any of my work on the channel, but I love to draw. Like I said, I went to the CVS and I bought literally every art supply that they had, but like right now they're super unorganized. I have them in like 3 different containers, including 2 bins and 2 literal Ziploc bags. So they're like all over the place, and then I still have some that are in their original packaging. So I need to like sort through them, go through them, and I had this idea when I was taking my notes. I was like, oh, since I'm already using some of them to make each note a different color, why don't I just keep that going, and then I have to organize them if they're all out anyway because I have to put them away. So yes, some of them are my very nice thin markers, which I like to use for inking, and then you have like the skin tone crayons, which are super useful for skin tones and not very super useful for taking notes. Sorry about that, but whatever. So this is a short chapter. It's only 6 pages because, like, they're leading up to the denouement. I think the denouement is going to be next chapter, even though there are still 3 chapters left, because that feels correct. Either that or we're going to have another interruption, and we've already had like 4 of them. But Porto says that he likes an audience and that he knows who did it, and so it feels like we're gearing up to the denouement very much. So we will see. I'm gonna be super honest. If the denouement is next chapter, I'm not sure that I'm gonna film a segment for either chapter 30 or 31. I may just finish the book because I feel like, the point of a reading vlog like this is to solve the murder, solve the mystery, and then once the mystery is solved, it's like, oh, declining action, EBD. It's part of the reason I was so frustrated that Lynette did not die for half the fucking book, because, like, I feel like the point of this video structure is the mystery and solving the mystery. Otherwise, I would just make everything like a 10-minute video like I did with my Artemis review, which I didn't make until I finished the book. And then it's, a review. of my thoughts on the book as a whole, and I only took a note for each chapter, not each page. So, like, I feel like that's a very different sort of feeling, like, and I think that really is something that I enjoyed a little bit more because I liked being able to not stop. I had the momentum to read the whole book, but at the same time, I really love also like this structure, and I love watching this structure. I love watching other people do this sort of thing. So I really wanted to do it myself because like it's so cool to like solve alongside, watch other people's like thought processes and their positionality when it comes to a mystery novel like this. So I did really want to do this for the Agatha Christie books, and I have, I think I have like another couple mystery novels that I have on hold as well. So yeah, like that's something so it's like I really enjoy doing this, but I'm not going to do it with all of my books because like I feel like the the costs outweigh the benefit for anything that isn't a mystery novel. So yeah, if the denouement is next chapter is gonna be the last time I check in, and then I'm just gonna finish the book on my own time. Sorry. Anyway, yeah. So, um, yeah, and also Richetti is Colonel Rice's man, but not the murderer. That's exciting, I guess. Yippee. I don't think I have any other thoughts. I think it's still either Fanthorpe or Ferguson. Also, Poirot makes a comment about the first and second half of the mystery, and he could be referring to um, the fact that Lynette died and then two other people died. I think that's probably the way we're supposed to interpret it. But it did make me think about my theory of there being a cover up artist that came in after Lynette's murder and tried to frame Jackie. So that's, if that ended up happening, you know, I called it. But I don't think it's gonna happen. Not at this point. I don't feel like that's the play. Oh my god, there's an ant on my desk. Where the fuck did it come from? Get off, get off. No, 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 no. What the heck? My desk is like as far away from the kitchen as possible. Why are there ants here? Why are there ants here? There have been ants on my windowsill, and there have been ants on my desk, and there have been zero ants in the fucking kitchen. Why? I don't understand. I don't understand. It's fine, it's whatever. Anyway, I will see you after chapter 29, which may or may not be the denouement. I just read chapter 29. Here are my notes on it, which halfway through turned into comments about how remarkably nice these art skills markers are. I got them at the CVS for like $15, and they're like not bad. I mean, they're like vibrantly primary colors with a brown and a black, so they're not like the most diverse, but like they're decent quality. They are bleeding through my paper though, because this is a like notebook that I literally got for free. But these are good markers. If you're looking for good cheap markers, remarkably good markers. Anyway, I'm so mad because I called it and then I let myself be convinced that I was wrong. I'm so mad. Oh my god. No, I thought it was Simon and Jackie like way back when they like made the whole like sun and moon metaphor. And they both said that. I was like, "Oh my god, they're totally in on it together to kill her. to kill Lynette. And they were. But I let myself be convinced otherwise by the time the boulder thing happened. Because I was like, oh, well, Jackie wasn't behind the boulder thing. Therefore, it wasn't Simon and Jackie. They're not in on it together. But they were. I'm mad at myself because I called it. I saw it and I called it, and I let myself be convinced by all of this red herring nonsense that I was wrong. But I was right. This is so mad. I'm so mad right now. I'm so mad right now because I called it. I called it and I was right. But, yeah. I called it and I was right, but I let myself be convinced otherwise. I'm so mad right now. I'm so mad right now. Oh my god. There are still 2 chapters of book left. And, like, I have 2 chapters of book left, and the, like, doobie flotchy at the end. I'm not gonna make any more videos for them unless it comes out that, ooh, it wasn't Simon and Jackie after all. In which case I'll check in, but, like, I'm signing off. This is the end of the video. I cannot believe I called it and then I let myself be convinced otherwise. Oh my god. Because I called it back in, like, what one was it? Not chapter 13. No. Yeah, back, like, in chapter, like, in, like, chapter, like, chapters, like, fucking, hold on, I'm trying to find, I know I made a note of it, of, like, the exact moment of it. Yes, okay, I called it back in chapter 6, and I was convinced of it through, like, here you can see my notes that I mentioned them using the same metaphor, and I was like, oh, so they're, like, totally in on it together, right? And then I was convinced of that up through chapter 10 when the boulder fell down. And then I was like, oh, well, that's not it, obviously, because Jackie was still on the boat. But but no, that turned out to be the answer. I'm mad. I'm pissed off. I'm mad. I'm not mad at the book. I'm mad at myself. Because, like, that was good. That was good. That was really good. The fact that I called it that early means that, yes, it is solvable. I saw someone in the comment section of someone else's Let's Solve on, I think, and then there were none, which I also read before I started the channel, so there's not going to be a video on that one. I think I mentioned that earlier, but I don't fucking know. It's been more than a week since I started this one, so these take forever. Partially because I keep pausing to film. But yeah, so, like, I saw someone in the comments of someone else's Let's Solve for, I think, and then there were none, but it might have also been, uh, Murder of Roger Ackroyd. It was one of those two. I looked and I could not find videos for the Mysterious Your Favorite Styles except for, like, one. And yeah, so there, I know it wasn't that one. But it's one of the people said, like, one of this comment said, Agatha Christie's novels are not actually solvable. you don't learn enough to be able to solve them before Poirot's denouement, which I think is objectively false and is proven here by the fact that I called it. I fucking called it. The evidence was there. And I just got fucking distracted. Like, I think that's the thing about especially Agatha Christie, but like mystery novels in general, is you have to have enough other nonsense going on to make it work. Because if you don't have enough other nonsense going on, then people figure it out. You nail it. You're like, oh, this is the thing. And then you nail it. And if you have to have this other nonsense, but you can't lose track of the thing. You have to seed in the thing, but you have so much stuff that people don't notice. And I think that's while I fundamentally disagree with this random person whose username I forgot, who was commenting on somebody else's video. um I do think that that actually is a sign of a really great mystery author. If you think they're unsolvable, then that means that she did a good job of hiding the evidence. It was definitely there, but it was really well hidden because there was a lot of other stuff going on. I think it's also really interesting that I keep nailing like the drama around the killers and then missing the killer. I was so convinced that it was gonna be someone else. Like, I totally bought in to Simon and Jackie's alibis. But yeah, that's upsetting. I still don't know why he tried to frame his partner. I guess to just make it look more like it was an outside influence and less like they were in on it. But yeah, I don't think I'm gonna make another video segment for this because, like, wow, yeah, okay, good job. I'm mad. I can't believe I called it and then I got sidetracked. This is terrible. Why would you do this to me? Oh, okay. Alright, well, thank you for watching this whole video. However long it ends up being, I don't actually know. I do know the timestamps on the individual videos that I've taken, and I know that they vary between, I think the shortest one was like 3 or 4 minutes, and the longest one was 12. I could be wrong, I could be misremembering, but I want to say that, yeah, so, and there's 29 of them, so the video is going to be end up getting pretty long, and yeah. Um, I'll see you around. With any luck, the next video that comes out after this one will be my In the Name of the Rose review, because I'm rereading that. I'm not making a vlog of that one, even though it's a mystery story, because I have already read it. It's been like 5 years. I don't remember all of the plot points, but I have already read it, and so I feel like doing a mystery vlog for that, a Let's Solve for that, would be less than honest. So we're not going to do that. And then um, I have 3 other Agatha Christie's that I have checked out right now. I have 2 Agatha Christie's checked out right now. And I have a book that my parents recommended me, which is going to get a review. And then I have a book about a fictionalized version of Agatha Christie's disappearance that I just got in the hold for. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do a vlog of that one or if I'm gonna do a review of that one, But either way, I don't think that that's going to be what I do next. So as you can see, I have The Murder at the Vicarage and The Body in the Library, both by Agatha Christie. Those are going to be vlogs as well. And then Timeline is probably going to be a book review. My parents recommended it to me. They said that it's just something I should read. So yeah, that's where we're at right now and what we're going to be doing going forward. Yeah, so probably thanks for watching. I don't think I'm going to make any more videos for this one because we know who did it now. I still can't believe I fucking called it. I'm mad. Alright, well, see you for whatever comes next. Thank you for watching. Bye bye bye.